Mizmor LaDavid, Adonai Roi lo echsar, Binoter sheyarbitzeni al menuchot yanachaleni, Nafshi yishovev, Yanacheni v'magle tzedek lama'an shemo, Gam ki helech v'gitzam avet, Lo irarai ki ata yemodi, Shiftecha u'mishantecha hema yenachamoni. Daruch lefanai shulchan neged tzorirai, Tishanta v'shemen roshi kosir vaya, Ach tov v'chesed yerdifuni kol yamei chayai, V'shaviti b'veit Adonai lehorach yamim. I've chanted for you the words of our 23rd Psalm. In these moments when our hearts are absolutely breaking and when we are in need of comfort and strength, we often turn to the psalmist. And so at this time, I invite you to recite these words with me as we say together, The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember her. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we will remember her. In the opening buds and in the rebirth of spring, we will remember her. In the blueness of sky and in the warmth of summer, we will remember her. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we will remember her. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember her. When we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember her. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember her. So long as we live, she too will live, for she is now a part of us, as we remember Nicole Kahn. To her husband, Mark, to her parents, Susan and Ron, to her mother-in-law, Wilma, to her brother and sister-in-law, Jeremy and Victoria, her sister-in-law and brother-in-law, Jolene and Ben, to her uncles, Steve and Dave, her nieces and nephew, Cordelia, Gabriel and Ashley, to all the members of the family, and to so many dear and cherished friends, those of you who are able to join with us in person today, those of you who are joining us via live stream, our hearts are united in this moment as we find the strength to remember and also to celebrate the life of your beloved Nicole. How shall I bless her? With what shall I bless this child? O God, you blessed her with a smile that is like light. You blessed her with a heart with which to feel all the sights. You blessed her with legs to dance forever and with a soul to remember all the melodies. You blessed her with ears attentive to old and young. You blessed her with arms to embrace everyone she loved. You blessed her with lips to speak words of kindness and inspiration. You blessed her with a song and a smile. You blessed her with gentle hands and a loving heart. Elohim, 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 luach berachta lo chayim arukim. God, God, oh God, if only you had blessed her with long life. Susan and Ronnie, your daughter Nicole accomplished more and touched more hearts in her 45 years than most of us might realize if granted 90 years. Today, no one can offer you adequate words. There are no words to share when the order of nature has been reversed. We can only offer our gratitude to you for giving all of us the gift of Nicole. She was born on March 22nd, 1977, and along with her older brother Jeremy, grew up in Shaker Heights, residing on Lowman Boulevard before moving to Rockland Road. In her earliest years, her parents knew their little girl to be delightful, an easy child, a happy child, and a sister who adored her big brother. As a youngster, it was clear that music played an important role in her life. She began taking piano lessons at the tender age of 6 years old, and in her teen years, when she craved something a little different, Nicole branched out and found an interest in jazz piano, studying with the renowned jazz pianist Neil Creaky. While many of us may know about her becoming visually impaired as a toddler, we may not fully understand the level of strength, intelligence, talent, and perseverance that was required of Nicole in order for her to grow into the amazing, kind-hearted, and accomplished woman we all knew and loved. And I must add, the level of dedication, support, and love Nicole received and could always count on from her family. In kindergarten, first and second grade, Nicole was enrolled at the Alexander Graham Bell School in Cleveland. Their program for visually impaired students was superb, and it was here that Nicole learned Braille. Once Nicole had reached the third grade, she was mainstreamed into the Shaker Heights schools. She worked diligently throughout her elementary school, middle school, and high school years. And throughout her youth and teens, music was always her constant. Singing in the youth choir at the musical settlement, singing in her high school choir, even in her adult years, she was one of the first to sing in our women's choir, Kol Isha, here at the Temple Tifereth Israel. Her beautiful, sweet soprano voice, enjoyed by so many. And in speaking of her congregation, Nicole was a lifetime member here at the Temple. She was part of our consecration class when she's just 6 years old. She became bat mitzvah here, and she continued her Jewish education through her confirmation. In high school, Nicole studied French. She was in the French club and was known to have had this remarkable French accent as her fine-tuned listening skills were spot on. Summers in her teen years were spent at the Enchanted Hills overnight camp in Napa Valley, California. It was here that Nicole met her friend of 30 years, Brooklyn. Brooklyn, I know that Nicole was a dear and treasured friend, and you expressed how she was always so supportive of you. The word you kept stressing when we spoke was loyal. She was loyal. The times that you traveled to be with each other, the times that you were there for each other in moments that were challenging and moments that were joyful, when you were a bridesmaid at her wedding. And while you two were definitely separated by the miles, that was the only thing that ever separated you two. Never the love and the respect that you had for each other. Nicole graduated from Shaker Heights High School in 1995 in the top 10 of her class. I want to make sure you understand, not the top 10%. Nicole Kahn was among the top 10 individual students in her graduating class. Following her graduation, she matriculated to McAllister College in St. Paul, Minnesota. Susie, you said to me that she could have gone to Worcester, she could have gone to Oberlin, but no, she had to torch you and go as far away to the coldest place on the planet. But there you were, you and Ron supporting her all the way. She loaded up with all the things that any college student would pack for her freshman year of college, and Nicole made her way to chilly St. Paul with everything one would expect, but also with her Braille printer, her regular printer so her professors could read her papers, her scanner which would read her textbooks to her, and so much more. It's extraordinary. It's absolutely remarkable to comprehend all the challenges Nicole might be faced with and all that she would ultimately overcome. At Macalester, Nicole majored in psychology and minored in music. Her junior year, she came back to the Cleveland area and studied music therapy at Baldwin Wallace College before returning to Macalester for her senior year. Nicole graduated with honors from Macalester in 1999. From there, she moved on to a 2-year program at Michigan State, where she became a board-certified music therapist. And following a 6-month internship at the Veterans Hospital in Napa Valley, California, Nicole returned to Cleveland to start her career as a music therapist. With her wide range of knowledge, her beautiful voice, her piano and guitar skills, Nicole was ready to go out into the workforce and make a difference. She found her niche working as an independent music therapist in nursing homes, adult activity centers, and even at the Montefiore Hospice. She especially loved working with the elderly. Throughout her entire life, Nicole was never one to shy away from trying something new. The family told me that there was a trip they took together through France. The trip was part of a larger group. It was a bicycle trip, and Nicole actually had to train for this trip. Her mom and Jeremy rode solo, but Nicole and her dad rode tandem. The trip was wonderful. And I learned from her family that the French are actually exceptionally accommodating when it comes to those who are visually impaired. On this trip, the family explored many gorgeous and historic places, including Versailles. And as Ron and Susie and Jeremy had to stand behind the velvet rope to view Marie Antoinette's bed, Nicole was invited, encouraged to go in front of the roped-off area and touch the bed. And she did. And her family asked her afterwards, "What did it feel like?" And Nicole replied, "Dusty." As a youngster, her fearless demeanor allowed her to learn ice skating, and this included performing in an annual ice skating show. And as a young adult, her bravery allowed her to explore an online dating site. And thank goodness she did. Mark, 20 years ago, before it was really commonplace, you and Nicole met online. She was in Cleveland and you were living in Sandusky. Before you met in person, you spent a week talking on the phone every night for hours and hours. And something told you, you knew that this woman was quite special. The two of you agreed to meet at a coffee shop in Bedford, and Nicole, who was smart and savvy, she knew it was best not to go alone, so she was there with her dear friend, Xander. And by the time that first coffee date was over, you knew she was the one. The relationship remained long distance for just a few months, but then, Mark, you moved to Cleveland, and the friendship quickly blossomed into love. On June 23rd, 2007, you and Nicole were married at the Ritz-Carlton with Rabbi Susan Stone officiating. Mark, I imagine as Rabbi Stone conducted your ceremony, she recited the words of what we call the Sheva Brachot. It means the 7 blessings. The 7 wedding blessings. It's when we exchange the second cup of wine. And within these blessings, Mark, the bride and groom are described by these 2 words, Re'im Ahuvim. Translated, that means loving partners. This is what you and Nicole have been for the past 15 years. You've been husband and wife, and for the 20 years that you've known each other. Re'im Ahuvim, loving partners. Together as partners, you would go to the parks. She loved nature, loved listening to the sound of nature, the birds. She became familiar with bird calls. She loved to go with you to the beach. The annual trip to Topsail Island in North Carolina for the past 12 years. And Mark, you made sure even this past July when Nicole was in between treatments, you made sure to have one more visit to the island. She adored the sound of the ocean and the feel of the ocean air. You both enjoyed going to Blossom Music Center to listen to the Cleveland Orchestra while picnicking on the lawn. You marveled at her great appreciation and knowledge for the Beatles. She probably knew every one of their songs by heart. And Mark, with Nicole, you knew a woman who was sweet and caring. You said she was a person who treated everyone so well. You also mentioned that even in her most challenging moments, these past 2 years, when she was in and out of hospitals, you saw, Mark, the effect that she had on everyone, doctors, nurses. Even if they weren't assigned to Nicole on a particular day or a particular shift, they still stopped by to visit with her. Nicole knew everyone by name, not just the doctors and the nurses, but she knew the custodial staff who also came to adore her. You said she was kind and gracious to all. And while I think you already know this, Mark, I hope you do, but it still merits stating today. The love and the care, the way you undertook the difficult tasks of caregiving, the ways in which you mastered nursing skills and educated yourself about her disease and her treatments, and especially, Mark, the ways in which you tried to keep her spirits up. Not only are Susie and Ronnie and the entire family forever grateful to you, but Mark, your actions have been an example to all of us as well. 10 years ago, in 2012, Nicole decided to make a career change, and she began working for the Cleveland Sight Center. She was a natural. Her empathy, her intelligence, her discretion. Nicole was a highly valued member of the team. Her beautiful soul and the light that always shone from her heart had an impact on so many. And even in these last 2 years, despite difficult treatments and the unrelenting nature of her illness, Nicole continued working as much as she was able. She experienced numerous long hospitalizations, and her coworkers at the Cleveland Sight Center, they were so fond of her, they loved her so much, that her coworkers donated more than 30 days of their paid time off. They did this when she had exhausted her own medical leave, and this is truly remarkable. Friends, before I call on Nicole's brother, Jeremy, to share some thoughts with us, I want to give her father and mother and her husband the last words. As I sat with the family the other night, I want to share with you the phrases, the words they used to describe their beloved daughter and wife. She was non-judgmental. Things were not always easy for her, but she never complained. She was compassionate, and she had a great sense of humor. She loved her cats and her guide dogs. Nicole trusted people. She trusted everyone. There wasn't a mean bone in her body. She lived her life with grace. And Nicole saw the good in people. She was patient and giving and generous of spirit. She was sensitive to the feelings of others. She was smart, articulate, conscientious. She persevered and always saw things through. She met her challenges with great determination. She was admired by so many and truly left her handprint on the hearts of everyone she came in contact with. As we know, words which come from our heart enter directly to the heart. Jeremy, at this time, I want to call on you to share the words that are in your heart with all of us.
You have heard from Cantor Sibo some facts about Nicole's life, but I want to convey to you some of what Nicole taught me, both when we were growing up and later as adults. Nicole, I owe you a lot. I was sure that Nicole would be an amazing sister before I even met her. Some of you will have heard this story, but I was so excited when Mom and Dad told me that I was going to have a little sister, I ran up and down the hall shouting, a sister, I'm going to have a sister. But it suddenly occurred to me that there was a key piece of information I lacked. Dad, I asked, what's a sister? The answer was somewhat more prosaic than I had hoped, but I remember helping Dad paint a sheet with a big welcome message from Mom and Nicole when they came home from the hospital that we hung across the front of our house on Lomond. And as it turned out, my excitement was not misplaced. Nicole and I soon became fast playmates despite our almost 3-year age difference and Nicole's later loss of sight. We played many creative games together as children, and Nicole was always a giggly, fun companion. I learned important lessons from Nicole early on, to try to be considerate of others, whether that meant not leaving toys out where she might trip over them, or being sure to leave the doors either fully closed or fully open so Nicole would not bump into them. I learned to describe the visual world in words so she could better understand scenes in movies or television, something that has perhaps helped me in my own career as a journalist. Most importantly, I learned not to judge people by physical abilities or outward appearances, but by their character. It was certainly a lesson Nicole applied every day of her life. Nicole could have been distrustful, given that there's a lot of nonverbal communication without which it can be difficult to read intentions. But instead, Nicole was remarkably open. Nicole gave everyone she met the benefit of the doubt and treated people with kindness. Nicole was a patient person and rarely expressed frustration or anger. But I want to tell you that this does not mean that she was never angry. And as her brother, I probably incurred her wrath more than others. Nicole would never shout or yell, though. No, her condemnation was always silent but searing. When, as a kid, I would do something that annoyed or displeased her, Nicole would give me the finger. But wait, it's not what you think. Because Nicole did not flip you the bird. Instead, she would shoot out her arm with her index finger extended in a j'accuse pose. And it was remarkable that despite her blindness, Nicole's finger never missed its mark. There was a lesson there, too. Do not think that just because you are not being seen, that you can get away with it. Also, never trust that just because you're hurling a chicken drumstick at a blind person at a range of 3 feet across the kitchen table, she won't somehow hear it coming and manage to duck. To be fair, that chicken drumstick incident was a one-off. Nicole and I almost always got along. And when we grew up, we tried to stay in touch by phone, even though I often lived far away. It was always comforting to hear Nicole's beautiful bell-like voice on the other end of the line. She was an excellent listener and always tried to provide an empathetic ear and sound sisterly advice. She also knew that sometimes a person should listen more and speak less. It is a lesson that my wife Victoria would say I am still trying to learn. Some of my fondest memories of Nicole as an adult are when she would come to visit me when I lived in New York. We would do typical New York things, have brunch, go to the theater, have a nice dinner. But we also always tried to make a pilgrimage to the Museum of Television and Radio, where Nicole delighted in listening to old radio plays. She and my father had once made one of their own in the style of these 1930s classics. In the evenings, we would often head down to the Sidewalk Cafe in the East Village to listen to singer-songwriters perform. I am not at all musical and was in awe of Nicole's musical abilities. At one point, she tried to teach me some piano. We got as far as Frere Jacques before she gave up. Nicole was wise enough to spot a lost cause when she encountered one. As a music therapist, Nicole used her beautiful voice to bring healing and happiness to those facing illness or loneliness. And I will never forget the gorgeous rendition of Joni Mitchell's Both Sides Now she sang at Victoria's and my wedding. And in recent days, I've heard from many others who were there and were moved by her singing. As many of you will know, Nicole was a huge Beatles fan and knew all of their songs and a remarkable amount of Beatles trivia. I know that Victoria in particular so enjoyed dancing with Nicole at a Beatles tribute concert at Blossom 2 summers ago. Never forget to enjoy life, another lesson. And Nicole did enjoy life. She loved to laugh, she was often smiling, and while she wasn't much of a cook herself, she certainly enjoyed food, as well as, on rare occasions, a Cosmo or other cocktail. She and Mark enjoyed going out to restaurants often, and she certainly enjoyed Mark's cooking. Mark told me the other day that Nicole's line about baking chocolate chip cookies was, "If you're going to make them, I'm going to eat them." My parents remember that during one visit to the French Laundry in Napa Valley, the restaurant's famous chef, Thomas Keller, was so thrilled by Nicole's enjoyment and enthusiasm for his food that he invited her back to tour his kitchen. Nicole was a wonderful aunt to my children, Cordelia and Gabriel, and I know also to her other niece, Ashley. She was such a thoughtful person, always telling me about the extensive research she and Mark had done to try to find the most suitable toddler toy for the kids, or later, to find the books that they would give them. In recent years, Nicole and Cordelia would frequently text one another, and Cordelia loved these conversations. They were certainly far more interesting than whatever it was Cordelia was supposed to be learning in class when she was instead furtively texting with Auntie Nicole. I know how much both Cordelia and Gabriel will miss her. Nicole was a great lover of animals, her cats, and 2 guide dogs. My family recently got a dog ourselves, and for the first time, and Nicole was quick with advice on feeding and training. I will have to try to apply more of it. Our dog is still a bit bonkers. Nicole was forever an inspiration to me. She did so much. To watch her navigate the high school with its chaotic class changes and crowded halls, or later to learn how she managed at college in Minnesota in subarctic temperatures, or more recently learned her way around new workplaces, was incredible. Nicole wanted to help other visually impaired people achieve, and she did so through her work as an employment counselor and assistive technology trainer at the Cleveland Sight Center. Nicole was one of the most courageous people I have ever met, and I thought so even before witnessing the fortitude with which she managed the last 2 years since her terrible diagnosis. In our family, it is my dad, and to a lesser extent I, who have participated in endurance sports. But I have never in those arenas witnessed the perseverance and tenacity that Nicole displayed throughout her life. Nicole might not like this last part of what I am going to say. She found the suggestion that her disability might convey any kind of special insight distasteful. Nonetheless, this is a lesson that Nicole's experience in the last 2 years has taught me, that you cannot know what life will throw at you. Those of us who are sighted can too easily forget this lesson. We like to believe that because we see the horizon, we know what's coming. But I think Nicole knew all along that this is not so. I think it is one reason she faced her illness so uncomplainingly. To be blind is to constantly confront this deep and terrible truth that none of us can be certain of what lies ahead, and yet we must somehow summon the courage to get up and try to cross the room anyway. This is the final lesson you have taught me, Nicole, and I will try to take it to heart. I wish that you could have lived longer, for I'm sure you would have taught me and my family so much more. We loved you, and we will miss you so, so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeremy. Susie asked if I could sing 2 songs that were special to her and that she thought Nicole would appreciate. So I've tried to meet her request by presenting these songs together as one. Think of me fondly when we've said goodbye. Remember me once in a while. Please promise me you'll try. When you find that once again you long to take your heart back and be free, if you'll ever find a moment, spare a thought for me. Think of me waking, silent and resigned. Imagine me trying too hard to put you from my mind. Recall those days, look back on all those times. Think of those things we'll never do. There will never be a day when I won't be with you. Shalom Rav Yisrael Lamacha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Lamacha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon lechol hashalom v'tov b'einecha levarech et amcha Yisrael b'chol et u'v'chol sha'at b'shlomecha. Recall those days, look back on all those times, think of those things we'll never do. There will never be a day when I won't be with you. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch, a fearful thing to love, hope, dream, to be and oh, to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings a painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death has touched. As you're able, I invite you to please rise for the memorial prayer, El Malei Rachamim. El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamsemenucha Nechona Tachat Kanfech Hashchina, Memalot Kedoshim Utorim Kezochar Arakia Masyirim, Et Nishmat Chana Bat Yehuda Vishoshana, Shahalacha Leolama Begana Dendere Menuchata, Ana Baharachamim Astirecha, V'seter Knafecha Leolamim, V'titror Bitrar Chachayim Et Nishmata, Adonai hu nachalata, V'tanuach b'shalom, Al Mishkava V'nomar, Amen. O merciful God, who dwells on high, who is full of compassion, grant perfect rest beneath the shelter of your divine presence among the holy and pure, who shine as the brightness of the firmament. To our dear departed Nicole Kahn, who is remembered by the Hebrew name of Chana, Bat Yehuda Vishoshana. To Nicole, who has gone now to her eternal home, may her soul be bound up in the bonds of eternal life, and grant that her memory ever inspire us to noble and consecrated living. And to this we say, Amen. Friends, I just want to share with you that we will continue our service of memory as we drive in procession to the Mayfield Cemetery. Following the interment, the family will receive visitors at the Point East Community Room, located at 27500 Cedar Road, today until 8:30 p.m., and also tomorrow, Monday, from 2 until 4 p.m., and again from 7 until 9 p.m. Anyone wishing to make a contribution in memory of Nicole, the family has asked that you might consider either the Cleveland Site Center or the Ronald McDonald House Charities of Northeast Ohio. As you have come here today in peace, May you go forth in peace.